Hi friends, I'm so excited. We are just a couple days away from the 4-bit mystery for New Year's Day. We are sewing from strips, so whether you cut your own from your fabric stash or go out and purchase a jelly roll, you will be able to join in the fun. There is a free pattern download that has the cutting instructions to start with, and then on January 1, bright and early, we will get started sewing. So first I want to share some of the cutting tips. So come along and we'll get started on the 4 bits mystery.
I chose a nice batik set of strips, and it's got packaged very well. Got 40 different fabrics here. Which is so cool. All of those blues and some greens and some light fabric there. So I am going to cut off my selvages and work from my large to my smaller cuts according to the instructions. So I need 27 of this first one. So I am going to just divide. Actually, let me get organized for a second. I want to keep all my lights in a group and keep those darker ones. Although when you get to smaller bits, some of those darks will act like lights. But let me just get organized and count here. That's a darker. This one. Put these in the, I don't know if I want that in them dark. We'll do mediums down here. Got a couple darks. This is definitely in the medium. You know, keep these 3 sets, and that way I can balance when I am making my subcuts. And the first grouping I'm going to do is the largest length. So I am going to make just one of each cut, and I need 27 of these pieces. So I'm going to choose 9 from each group. 5. Actually, I'm going to be selective, and I'm going to take out these really light ones from my medium pile and do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so those are the ones I'm going to use. Those I'm going to set aside. And then same thing here. I'm going to go 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And those will be, and I am going to use these other strips. I just don't want to use in this first cut. And then here we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to use these greens and then some of those lighter ones. Okay, so I've got my first selection, and I tend to only cut 3 strips, so 6 layers at a time. And I'm going to take the selvages off And I'm going to have to switch rulers a bit here. So I typically take off about 1/2 inch of my selvages. So I keep things organized so I know what I've done and what I haven't. I'm going to fold those in half, set them off to the side, and then I can do this last group. Again, eyeballing about 1/2 inch there to take off the selvage. These were folded really nicely. Sometimes you get fabric and the selvage edges aren't lined up, but these are really nice to work with. I'm not really measuring anything. I'm using some of the straight lines on my mat and on my ruler to make sure that I've got things lined up. Okay, and then since I only want one of each of these strips, I need to lay them out the full length because they come doubled over in the package. So we're going to be able to cut more of these, and I need to line up those cut edges and get these layered nicely because this first cut is long. And you can measure off of your mat if you want to get the full length, or I am actually going to use my long ruler that I cut yardage with, and I'm going to turn it sideways because that's the only way I can get the length that I need for this first cut. And I am not giving any measurements because you can find those in the pattern. Okay, so then I will, and then to make sure I have enough room to cut, I am going to lay my ruler down this way. I've got the measurement I need at one end, the cut end, and then I am keeping things straight, and I'm going to cut at that end. Now, these pieces will go back into the pile for smaller cuts. If you don't have a strip that is long enough for this long cut, just cut as long as you can. You can fill in with some of the smaller cuts. Your overall quilt could be narrower than mine as we get going in this pattern. There's lots of ways to adapt. So I am going to put these aside and finish cutting my long strips. Now for this last set, I'm going to mix things up a little bit because I designed this pattern to use as much of our fabric strip as possible. So I'm actually going to make the 4 cuts that we need out of this last stack. So I start with my longest piece and I cut that, and you notice that I did not press my strips. So since I don't want to deal with that fold, it might mess up my cutting, you know, and make the blocks a little bit longer than they need to be when you press that fold out. It kind of bunches up the fabric there. I'm just going to turn my strips around. This is the lazy way to avoid that potential inaccuracy. And I'm going to get those as even as I can. I was holding on to the cut edge, and then I'm going to make my next smaller cut. So I can measure that from the opposite cut end. So there's my second cut. And then I'm going to make my third cut here is even smaller, and I'm running out of room on my ruler because I need it to go that way to get this smaller cut. Here's cut 3. And then I think we can get 2 of our smallest, our 2.5-inch squares out of the remaining. So I switch to a smaller ruler that's a little bit easier to deal with, and I do 1 and 2. You can see we're just avoiding that little bit of the folded fabric as I cut there. And then that is all of the waste that we have off of our long strips. When you cut 1 of each and 2 of the smallest bits from our fabric, we've got our 2 bits, our 4 bits, our 6 bits, and our $1 long strips. So 4 sizes. And then for the mystery, as we get started sewing on January 1st, we will be combining these units, and I will release those clues on January 1st. So have fun prepping, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, so we've got our prep work to do, and then I will be live on YouTube throughout New Year's Day. I can't give you a strict schedule yet. It's a holiday. I don't want this to be a stressful situation for anyone. I know you're anxious to sew, but enjoy the Rose Bowl parade and set your notifications, and I'll jump on soon. I will also be sending email to everyone with the clues and the instructions as we go along, so you won't miss out anything if you're not glued to the computer for the YouTube live stream. But I do want to give you a starting point, so I will try my hardest to get up early, have my coffee, and be ready to sew by 8 a.m. Pacific time. So we can use that as our starting point. I hope everyone has a wonderful New Year's Eve, and I'll see you soon.